And welcome back to Prep Recruiting Insider, PRI, here at Moe's Pizza in Westwego. I'm the head coach of PRI, Rick Gailey, along with our Prep Recruiting Insider, Renee Nato. And today on our panel show, we have two fine head coaches to help discuss the select divisions. To your right, Coach Tony Agresta of the Northlake Christian Wolverines, and to your left, Coach Joe Chango of the Country Day Cajuns. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to be here. It's an honor.
Tony, you've been at Northlake for 10 years, 8 years as the head coach, and had a lot of good things happen with the Wolverines. Tell us about your program.
Well, the program, Coach, basically has gone from a school that had football about 12 years ago to a school that decided they want to compete in football a little bit. So we went from an unknown to a competitive group, and then most recent years a group that every year has a viable chance to compete for a district championship. The next step will be for us is to get past that first or second round of the playoffs, but we're pleased with the progress, and it's been a blessing to be at Northlake.
Absolutely, doing a great job, and we'll talk with Coach Chango about the Country Day Cajuns in the next segment. But first of all, let's go to Division I on the select side, the state champions, where the Evangel Christian Eagles are playing the Scotlandville Hornets. And Evangel's been there a lot, Renee. Scotlandville is new to the experience.
Yeah, Evangel's won 11 state titles. So Byron Dawson's done a great job. 77.5% of his games he's won. They got some good players. Connor Curry is a quarterback. He's got some offers from Clemson and Southern Miss. On the flip side, Scotlandville hasn't won a state title. They did win one in 1969 under the LIALO division. But they've won some games, but they've only squeaked by in the playoffs, winning by 9 total points. It should be a good matchup. Joe, what's your take on a Division I matchup, Scotlandville and Evangel?
Well, I think it was a shocker to see Evangel do what they did to John Curtis. And so I think that certainly kind of changes that equation. I was expecting Brother Morton actually to beat Scotlandville. I really thought Brother Morton had come on strong at the end of the season. So both these teams are kind of a shock to me to be in the final. And I think it's going to be a heck of a football game, but it appears Evangel will have a little bit of the edge, with just the experience of being there, I think, and the quality of program they've had over the course of their time.
Tony, what do you say?
Just to mirror what Coach said, the fact that Evangel was able to hold John Curtis to, 136 yards of total offense, that's a little bit frightening. So I wouldn't want to be going up against that defense this week, that's for sure.
Yeah. That's right, and I knew that Evangel was going to be dangerous when we had Coach Curtis on Countdown to the Original. And since I'm familiar with Evangel only too well, and I mentioned to them that when Evangel has linemen, that's when they have a chance to beat Curtis. Does Evangel have linemen? And you'd have thought his dog just got run over. His face went pale. He says, Coach, I saw him face to face. They have linemen, and so they have great defense. Byron Dawson, great defensive lineman at Evangel, is the head coach there. Levanta Davis is the head coach at Scotlandville. This is the third head coach at Scotlandville in the last 3 years. Pretty remarkable what they've been able to do. And Joe, that experience you mentioned is going to be important because you've put up with it as the offensive coordinator at Jesuit, being the fourth game on that Friday.
Yeah.
Tell us about the challenge.
It says it's an 8:30 start. I'll bet $1,000 that they don't start before 9 o'clock. We were dozing off in the locker room a few years ago waiting for our game to start when I was at Jesuit. But I think that's, I think the experience of being there becomes critically important, right? Just understanding how the day operates and handling all that stuff that goes on during the course of the day and the pictures during the week and just all the nonsense that kind of surrounds the game. I think Evangel will be just prepared to handle a lot of that stuff. It's new for Scotlandville. The fact that they've been able to do what they've done with 3 coaches in 3 years is astounding, and it's a credit to those kids and that program and what they're trying to do there. So I think it'll be exciting to see how it turns out for them. But again, I think the experience issue with Evangel is going to be hard for Scotlandville to overcome, especially if the game unfolds not in their favor,
Exactly. Let's go to Division II and look at a couple of teams that both know what to do while they're there. In fact, it's a rematch of the finals from last year. The Parkview Baptist Eagles, the defending champion, against the St. Thomas More Cougars.
Parkview Baptist, 8-4, 5 state titles. Jay Maillet, defensive-minded guy. Jim Hightower, 31 years, 73% of his wins. They get number 3 seed. Parkview Baptist, number 5 seed. Nate Cox, quarterback for St. Thomas More, 6'8", 190, 32 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, has a really good arm. Parkview Baptist, everyone knows on this table, has a stingy defense. Matthew Merlo, a linebacker, and Trent Kavanaugh, they kind of lead that defense. Tony, what do you see in that Division 2 game?
Well, I tell you what, when you have a quarterback that's thrown for 30 to 40 touchdowns in a high school football season, I mean, they're going to potentially put up all kinds of points. And I think if that's a low-scoring game, it's probably going to go in Parkview's direction. If it's high-scoring, I would kind of give the nod to St. Thomas More.
Joe, what do you see?
Right, it's the same. Anytime you get a solid defense versus a real good offense, it's an exciting matchup, and one of them is going to give. Either the offense is going to get rolling and do what they have to do, or the Parkview defense is going to hold up, and that'll probably be the matchup in the game that'll determine the outcome for sure.
That's right. As you mentioned, Renee, Jim Hightower has been there a long time. He is the second winningest coach in Louisiana high school history, but yet he does not have a state championship. And so just like we were pulling for a bet for Catholic of Baton Rouge a year ago, with Dale Weiner getting his first state championship, we're doing something similar with Coach Hightower. How long has Coach Hightower been coaching there? I coached against him in 1994 in a quarterfinal matchup when they didn't even have a stadium at Como. But it's amazing how St. Thomas More has been able to adapt their offense when you have somebody like the quarterback they have, Joe.
Yeah, a couple of years ago when I was at Jesuit, in our run, we went out there to go play them. They do just an unbelievable job on both sides of the ball, and they do offensively. When they weren't throwing the ball around like that year, but when you get a 6'8" quarterback, you find a passing game real fast. You figure out a way to get the ball downfield pretty quickly when you got a guy like that. So, I think that's when you got guys like that, it's always a threat and bodes well for the St. Thomas More.
And that's a key in today's football, isn't it, Tony? To be able, especially at the high school level, to be able to have a system of offense, defense, and the kicking game that you can adapt to your players.
Yeah, and I think the trick with that, coaches, and you would know this better than anybody else, is to not have to overhaul the offense in terms of terminology or philosophy necessarily, but just gear it more towards the kids that you have, whether it be a running group or a throwing group.
And how important is it that this is a rematch from last year? Parkview won 24-21. Do you think, Joe, you first, does St. Thomas More benefit from that? Is there a revenge factor?
I think I don't know the number of kids they had graduating off that team, but certainly there's kids on that team that remember what happened last year in the Dome and are not looking to end their season the same way they ended it last year. And I think there's certainly that motivating factor there for them. Will that be enough to get them over the top? I have no idea. But kids are kids, and so there's kids that lost in that game last year who said, "Hey, we got a chance at this. We ain't blowing it this time," And so I think that will definitely help St. Thomas More in their motivating factor, but.
That helps on Monday, don't you think, Tony? The revenge factor on Monday through Wednesday. But at kickoff, revenge doesn't make any difference when you get hit
usually
right in
after
nose.
the first series, after you've been hit in the mouth a couple of times, that revenge thing kind of goes out the window. Yes, sir.
Right. So that is Division 1 and 2 on the select side. When we come back after this break, the coaches will stay with us, and we're going to look at Division 3 and Division 4 of the state championships coming up this week. This is Prep Recruiting Insider, PRI at Moe's Pizza in West Wego. We'll be back with more information you can't find anywhere else right after this timeout.